generator of just doom rage. Welcome everybody to the Women in Gaming live stream for 2019. Yay! This is our 5th episode, though we should stop counting at this point. Sure. We're super excited to be back. It's a brand new year, brand new us. Maybe yes, we'll see.
Sort of.
Or same us. Yeah. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. It's because of your viewership that we are so excited to announce that this show is actually going bi-weekly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You like us that much.
Having such great support that we really want to make sure that, well, you have more of us and we have more of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we're so excited about it, and hopefully that means some new faces as well, as Kat and I have day jobs that we need to figure out.
We kind of need to work on it.
That's right, but there's lots of women here at Xbox, and we're excited to bring you guys some new faces, lots of topics, lots of honest discussion about diversity, women in gaming, what we're playing, beauty tips, anything that we kind of have. So very excited about that. We also have some brand new goodies today to kind of start the year, which is our shiny new emotes.
Which are awesome.
Hit the screen. I'm assuming it's up. Guys, yep, okay, cool. So if you are in the chat and you're following, you can get these really cool emotes. You can get our wig logo, some GGs. My personal favorite is the snaps there. So definitely follow us and use those super positive emotes to tell us how we're doing. See how there's nothing negative there? Girl power. But really happy to bring you those, and maybe we've got some fun stuff happening later in the year as well. So really cool that we can continue to evolve the show. We have a special host today, Miss Kiki Wolfkill. We're so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Kicking it off in the best way. So today we're going to get into a little bit of Forza Horizon 4. We're going to play a little bit of that. We're going to keep it chill, though. I think we're gonna we're gonna hit the off-road.
The touring version.
Exactly.
The touring version.
This is a scenic route today.
Yeah, I was just telling you guys that usually I do grab the controller and play. I'm not sure I'm gonna do this with Forza because I'm not good at the game. Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. This is judgment-free. You do you. It's all good. So we're absolutely gonna play a little bit of that. We're gonna ask you a lot of questions today, and in your role as studio head of Transmedia for Halo. We're actually probably not going to talk a whole lot about Halo today. So just kind of warning to everybody there, keep your secrets. Yeah, keep your secrets.
All the questions about
keep
Halo.
Your rumors. Yes. Keep it on the dark web. We're not going there today. We're going to talk about you and your role here at Xbox and your gaming career and just how awesome you are. Yeah. Well, we think it's really fun. So we will kind of go through what the show run through is, just so everybody knows. So we typically start the show talking about what we're currently playing. So we'll go through that. We'll get into some of the gameplay and chat. We're going to do some snaps, which is when we kind of acknowledge awesome things happening in the industry. And then we're going to do our kind of fun take on the camp game, Roses and Thorns, with our game overs and one-ups. And that is a full show. And our New Year's resolution of 2019 is to take chat questions.
So please feel free throughout the entire show to post your questions in the chat.
Yes.
We have Kate, who's hiding over there, who will source the questions to me, so we'll make sure to address and answer those.
Yes. Yep. We are committed to being better So absolutely, please definitely throw us in any questions you have for Kiki, anything you have for us, anything cool you saw. If you have a snap or a one-up, definitely would love to talk about that. So we'll kick off with what everybody's playing. We'll start with Kat.
Okay,
what did you play? We had some time off.
Yes, we had some time off. I did take an Xbox back to Portugal because I spent Christmas and the holidays back in Portugal.
Good for you.
So
Champion
I did get some
move.
I did get some gaming time on. Currently, I'm playing Celeste.
Oh, me too.
Which is a free game on Xbox Live Gold this month.
Yep.
So actually, anyone who's a subscriber to Xbox Live Gold can go and get it. The game got like raving reviews last year, and I was really excited to play it. I just never got around to get it. So this is like I'm getting into it. It has a very like Super Meat Boy vibe to it. It's hard.
It's really hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
So I play it in like bursts of 30 minutes and then I'm done with it and then I go back to it. But it actually gives me like, I want to get back to it.
Yeah.
So it's like a good hard.
Yeah.
And then I'm also playing Detroit Become Human on the PS4.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm loving. Like Quantic Dream does a great job with their games and I love all of their games. So I'm really into that one as well.
Awesome. The thing I like about Celeste, just to go back to that for a second, is it's super positive. Like the dialogue is just very the banter is really great between the characters, and it has a screen that, like, even though the puzzles are really hard, it's like, you can do this. Whereas like most platformers, like they beat you down between like,
why do you suck so bad?
I know, exactly. And it's like, you died. This one's like, go for it. I'm like, okay, I will get there eventually. But I just thought they did a great job. I also thought, just now rambling on about Celeste, is the reason I had heard about it is I saw the acceptance speech at the Game Awards.
Yep.
And they just talked about how, one, such a close, small-knit like team of passionate developers making it. You know, it has a real benefit on people's kind of mental health, and you know, just their message of like, hey, this is a game we built for everyone, for you. And I was just like, oh man, like this is awesome. This is what like gaming is all about, and it's so awesome to see it this month for free games of gold. Like,
and you were talking about like the whole dialogues in the game and mental health. They do touch a lot of that in such like a very subtle but positive way. I feel like hey, this is my dark side, but it's okay. Like we can accept my dark side. And it's like all of that. It's like brings a really interesting side to the entire game. Which could fall flat because it's another platformer game, but it's really, really well done.
Yeah, and it's not the highest graphics. Like it's.
I haven't played it yet,
Oh,
so now I'm excited.
You should try it. It's like 8. I don't know if it's 8-bit style, it's sprite
not,
style.
Yeah.
And but the way, again, it's very simple but elegant. Just a really great story. Hard as hell though, really hard. Like I was like, oh cool, I can do this. And then the first level I was like, oh, this is this is tough, but I can do it. It believes in me. So yeah, okay. So Kiki, what are you playing?
Oh, well, coming out of the holidays and being in bed sick for a week, I actually had a lot of time for binging TV and playing.
Nice.
I'm primarily playing Hellblade right now, Senua's Sacrifice, which I didn't play on my PlayStation when it came out, but it's on Game Pass now.
Yes.
And obviously Ninja Theory is part of the Xbox
the
family, and I'm a huge fan of them, and Nina and her team, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Definitely play with headphones because the audio and the soundscape is so impactful and such a big part of the gameplay. But beyond being beautiful, and I love action adventure is definitely my favorite genre. Is it just it's so resonant in, you know, speaking of sort of mental health, and it's so resonant in how it deals with that topic and that issue, and in a way that is so closely tied to the story and the action and what's happening. So I'm loving that, but I also am playing a little few things on the side as I do. I picked up on the airplane a little game called 7 Billion Humans.
Okay.
Which I love, which
Very
is
curious.
so it's actually kind of like a coding game, which is, and I have zero background in coding, but it's sort of programming logic puzzle game. and also a very sort of satirical look at corporate culture
Oh,
along the way.
Awesome.
But it's super funny and it's really fun. So that's sort of my playing game. I started playing Below.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of Cappy games, and that one is hard.
It is.
It's
yeah.
gorgeous. It's amazing dungeon crawler, stylized, beautiful, atmospheric. I friggin' lost my lantern, so the mines are just killing me right now. But I love it. Like, it's such a beautiful, contained.
The music in that game is insane as well.
Yeah.
From the opening soundscapes, like if from what is like can be perceived as like a very bare looking game.
Yeah.
Which again, there's so much detail in a sparse thing, and then just to be drawn in by the music and the atmosphere. Holy crap, they did an amazing
What
job.
a beautiful take on sort of a traditional genre. So huge fan of Below as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talked about Hellblade. So are you a fan of like scary games? Because I found playing with the headphones, it was very hard for me to play. And I don't play scary games. I don't like jump scares. And I felt terrified. Like it's like there's a lot going on because you hear her thoughts essentially, or through different kinds of areas, right, in the sound, and it made me feel like at any moment somebody was just going to come and be like, ah! But it doesn't.
But that's and that's what's amazing about it is you trying to sort of parse all those sounds and make sense of them. Makes you feel so vulnerable.
It does,
right? Which is really sort of I think part of the intent of how you're supposed to feel the character and sort of the conditions that she lives in. And so it does such an amazing job of sort of putting you in into that headspace. But it can be.
It's unnerving for sure.
It is.
I played the
very
game
intense.
when it first came out, and it was like just. I think my favorite moment is actually like the beginning of the game.
Yes.
When she's on the boat, it's just like when you realize you're
really daring for them to take the time. To do that.
But it's just like you just get into her head, and I don't know. You understand from the get-go what you're getting yourself into. Yeah. And it was so emotional, and you relate to the character right off the bat. It was really, really impactful. Like I still have that very clear picture of being in the boat with Senua in that moment. So it was really, really good.
I know it's crazy. I almost feel like a disservice not playing with headphones, but I haven't finished the game because I'm actually scared. I'm like scared to play it because it takes a lot emotionally out of me to play.
It does.
So, but I mean that's an amazing feat for a game to evoke that as well. So.
That's the power of games.
Kudos to them. Yeah.
A lot of good stuff to play right now.
Yes.
Awesome.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, you guys stole all my games that I've been playing. So I also played Celeste a little bit. I played Below. I started that one as well because kind of being like a Toronto native, Cappy kind of just has like a soft spot in my heart. And then my playing game is unfortunately Candy Crush Soda with friends. So still crushing candies all these years. So definitely not much to report there. But with that, why don't we jump into the game?
Sure.
Kiki, why did you want to play Forza? We always have to talk about why people selected the games they did.
2 reasons. One of which is my brain is puny, so I was trying to think of something that I could actually engage with both of you and play at the same time. I also have sort of a long history in racing games.
Yeah.
So I worked on a lot of racing games. I love racing games, and so there's always a very tender spot in my heart for racing games and Forza.
Do you want to tell us
in particular,
like a little bit about your history here at Microsoft with racing games? Because it goes back, and you also have
it goes back about 60 years.
Stroke our beards.
Yeah, that's exactly. I got my start in racing games basically before there was Xbox or at Microsoft and PC gaming. So my first job was I was a contractor, and I was working on Kart Precision Racing, which was a PC game simulation. And they actually I was working on sort of their racing school animations, and they were looking for a subject matter expert for the racing school itself, and they had called the local track. And at the time, I was racing professionally, and they're like, "Well, you actually have someone who is in the studio," and so was a subject matter expert for that game, and then ultimately ended up taking a full-time role as the art lead for the racing studio.
Yeah, wow.
So back in the day, it was Midtown Madness and sort of the whole Madness series.
Yep.
Shannon and I and a few other ladies who are no longer at Microsoft, the Ladies of Madness.
Yeah. It's a good title.
It's a
to
good
have.
Yes. It works at so many levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so worked on the Gotham Racing series, helped start up the Forza team back in the day. They have gone on to clearly do amazing things.
Yeah.
And so,
Very cool.
I
So
know racing games.
I know you just like kind of glossed over it, like, oh, I was just a professional racer. Like, what? Like, so can you, like, do you still race?
I don't race anymore.
Okay.
I
Even for fun? Like,
well,
is
I
it
get
fun
out on the track,
tracks?
so I drive
Okay.
on the track.
Okay.
I go out and sort of roll around the track.
That's awesome.
Yeah, quite a bit, and can be accused of exhibiting racing behavior on the road during my commute,
Which is abnormal for Seattle drivers.
Yes.
Oh yes,
To be honest.
yes.
It was a very
I am the
weird-
bane of Seattle drivers' existence. out there.
It was
Yeah,
a very
not my
weird
style.
adaptation from coming from Portugal and European driving to
Yes.
Seattle.
Yes.
I came from
say.
the East Coast,
Yes.
which
has a
is
much
also-
more
We
clear,
don't use the
concise
brakes
style
as
of
much
driving.
as people do here, for sure. Yeah.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
We signal the way we
I like to
wanna
call it
go.
defensive driving.
Yeah,
It's not what really
yeah.
goes on
Spatial
here.
awareness is
Yeah.
important.
And they are
Um,
really slow when you're in a rush.
Yes.
I just always feel like
Yes.
I'm.
The
everyone's
Seattle
in my way.
four-way stop phenomena is
Yeah.
extraordinary and unique.
It's like a case, definitely a
It's like,
regional
you know what?
case
I'm
study.
just gonna go
Yeah.
because you're not.
Love it.
Yeah.
So were you were racing professionally kind of on the side as you were
Yeah,
studio?
so it was actually in
Cool.
parallel. It was an amazing time because, I was working on video games, which I was
Yeah.
passionate about, working on racing games and racing
Yeah.
at the same time. So it was a really busy time. Ultimately, I didn't have time for both.
Yeah.
But, it was pretty
Awesome.
magical.
So there's
Did a few
That's
Xbox-sponsored events along the way.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Sure, they put you in a few cars for sure. That's amazing.
There's a few questions.
I
in the
bet.
chat. The first one, which I find really fun, is Kiki Wolfkill. Is that a real name or game?
Oh, yeah.
That is indeed my real name. I have my parents to thank for that. I sadly have no middle name, which for years
Oh.
made me so sad because I
Yeah.
wanted nothing else than a middle name.
You can
but
give
they-
yourself your own middle name.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a pretty badass name already, so I don't know. It's
Yes. But I grew up not being able to have a lot of personalized stuff, although I guess I
Oh,
have.
yeah.
Yeah, I had this one.
That's
I
fair.
had this one made, but yeah, I figured I would either grow up as a clown or circus performer or who knows.
All
Okay.
great professions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's
there's another
awesome.
question, which is like, how long have we known each other? All of us. So
Wow.
Not that long
that
on
long.
the history of things.
Yeah,
Probably
really since
2 years, 2.5 years ago.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
maybe
yeah,
longer.
it's when I joined
Yeah.
the Xbox like 1
Yeah.
year and a half ago. For
Yeah.
Me, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Yeah, we're all
we get good quality time
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. That's a really great questions. And again,
Yeah.
please keep asking questions.
Yeah, and the last one I have
Oh.
here is, what is your favorite games?
Oh, good one.
That's
You go
such
first.
a tough one.
I hate to answer this.
I know, because
I never
there's
make it
like
just-
favorite games from a play perspective,
Yeah.
there's favorite from a nostalgia perspective, then there's
Totally.
favorite from a like the experience of making
That's true.
perspective.
It's hard.
yeah.
We'll do like a top 3, 5, something like games that come to mind.
Yeah,
I can start. Like
Okay.
okay,
Well,
so
we know what yours is.
yeah, Gears of War is it's usually the obvious answer for me because it's not only the game but all the experiences that came with it and all the people that it brought into my life and all the opportunities it created, and I truly believe that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Gears. So it always has that special place in my heart. The other one is actually Kingdom Hearts, the franchise, which I'm like, I can't believe Kingdom Hearts 3 is actually coming out in like 15 days.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been waiting for 15 years for the game.
That's right.
So I'm super excited about it. Then Halo for the same reasons as Gears, because it was like my alternate competing game. And that's it for me. I'm obviously not making.
There's so many.
I'm not making justice of all the amazing games I've played and that had an impact in my life. But trying to keep it short.
All right, I'll start with a couple of nostalgia because they're part of why I think I got into making games.
Yep.
So Doom was definitely the original Doom, which is so funny to go back to now. Original Doom, I just remember like that was my first really social, you know, stay up every night till 3 a.m. Game, and it like opened up so much for me gaming wise.
Yeah.
GoldenEye, I would kind of put in the like that was just I think really sort of built my love for console and FPS. You know, Halo, I get that I work on it, but I work on it because I love it.
Yeah.
It was such a pivotal experience to be brought into a world and a universe, and really to play a game and step out of it and just be like, oh my God, how do I get more?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? How do I get more of this?
Yeah.
Was pretty monumental for me.
Yep.
And Halo 4 from a development experience was pretty magical. And then Project Gotham Racing. From a racing perspective, racing game perspective, I loved playing those.
That's
games.
awesome.
Yeah.
This is, again, like Kat, it's a hard one. I can't even formulate. I think for me, so Final Fantasy lives up there. Super Mario.
Which one?
Lives up. Well, so it's tough.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one because I've played a lot.
I'm just gonna roll.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should pick
while
it.
we're
We should pick a car.
I'm browsing Kate's garage, by the way.
Yes. I know. We will.
Which is an impressive garage.
I did see like, oh yeah, that little Trident car.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that in the UI. I'm not sure I'm going to try it today.
There's her Range Rover with wood panels.
I appreciate the level of customization that. The DB5. When I was little, I had a little model car.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and the like hubcap spun out and the license plate flipped.
That's amazing. I will admit I am a car dummy. I work with a lot of people that work on Forza, and it amazes me the level and depth of car knowledge.
I know.
It's one of my favorite cars.
I know a lot
Deliver me an Aston Martin DBS.
Please.
I say yes.
Yes. And it's amazing. And again, the people at Forza, like, just their knowledge of intimate details of, you know, I don't even, can't
So
even
I know
say
a lot because my dad is a car nerd and he's always been, and there were always car magazines around our house, and so I always picked them up and I always had a lot. And he actually used to not professionally race, but he used to like participate in amateur races.
Events and stuff,
his entire life, and I always tagged along, and then I did some. And so the one thing is I actually love to drive, but I don't know a lot about like cars. And
Are you, Kiki, are you one of those people when you're driving and you see a specific car, you're like, that car from that year, that color?
I have definitely certain cars where I am like that. Porsche in particular. I kind of grew up driving, at first as a passenger and then driving in German cars.
Nice.
I have fairly specific knowledge there. I'm not used to driving an Aston Martin in the snow.
No. Sure, it handles
She's
really
probably
well.
not ideal.
Actually, you're doing pretty good.
I've only mowed down one stone wall.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, this is Horizon, so really you don't need to stick to the roads. The roads is a suggestion.
Yeah.
So you were telling us about your favorite game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was hoping we would just pass that by.
I will not let you do that.
I'm like, I don't know. My brain is not working. Oh, gosh, there's so many. I love fighting games. I worked on KI was one of the first games I worked on when I was here, and I had a big passion for that as a retro game as well. You know, there's just so many of everything in our first party portfolio, like Gears and Halo, of course, Super Mario, Animal Crossing, Katamari. Actually, Katamari probably rates as one of my top
soundtracking.
top games. And I had recently seen it like re-entering the news cycle. I forget why. If it just got released on Switch?
I think they remade it.
Did they remake it or something?
That too. Yeah.
Think of why I've seen it in my feed recently, there were people that had never heard of Katamari, and I was like, what? Because it really was not that long ago.
Yes. Well, like 10 years.
I know.
It's a long time.
10 years goes by fast, but
especially in the gaming industry, I feel like.
Yeah, I just love kind of the whole absurdness of that game.
It is.
With there we go. So, all right, let's chat about being a woman in the game industry. Because we had Shannon here.
I've been a woman in the game industry a long time.
You sure have. You sure have. And I think that's kind of one of the unique reasons why having you on is so special. And, you know, we had Shannon on back in November, and she was kind of like you and Bonnie, and she kind of represent for us a little bit some of our OG ladies in the industry.
You prefer elderly, but whatever.
I'm definitely not going to be the one to say it. Can you take us back? Like, when you think about that time, or you know what you've seen since then? Like, I mean, is it a huge shift that we're kind of experiencing? I think it's cool for people like Kat and I to kind of hear some of that stuff in context sometimes, because when you're in the middle, I think we're in the middle of this kind of a lot of change. But you guys have been seeing change for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, it was funny because it was definitely sort of the Wild West for a while, and this is where it will be a challenge for me to try
and let me know
and talk smart at the same time.
If Kat needs to take over,
I can try.
Or I can take over.
You're in the Warthog now, so you can pretty much plow through anything.
Yeah, I can.
This is actually a special blingy Warthog that Kate has customized.
It's yellow though.
It's gold.
Oh, it's gold. Okay.
Yes. So here I will.
Okay.
There you go.
You can change the camera with the right bumper if
first person's not your.
Yeah.
It's not.
So yeah, I mean, it was kind of the Wild West, and it's so funny because, over the last couple years, there's been so much deliberate change and conversation, and it's really caused me to reflect back on, I would say the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That plus years that I've been in games, and really even reflect back on some of the experiences I've had differently than maybe I would have even a year or so ago. I think for us, it was amazing because we kind of came up together.
Yeah.
So we had each other as a support system,
Yep.
which I think became really meaningful for us over the last few years as we thought about what it meant.
Yeah.
And not just the three of us. There were more ladies of madness.
That's
along
right.
The way, who are all also doing incredible things at other companies, right? Which is such a nice way of thinking about how that pays forward, how the community you build and the values and culture you build together.
Yeah.
As people leave and go elsewhere.
Yep.
Sort
Spreads.
of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to speak a little more specifically about Bonnie and Shannon, like such amazingly smart people, and I think the three of us all are independent thinkers, and also aren't ones to sort of back down from a fight. We get in bathroom rumbles all the time.
Yeah. You bring your
yeah, that's right. We do. But you don't even have to hit X to flip. It just does it on its own. And so, I think we all came up knowing we had each other's support and each other's back, especially when we would get into situations where we had to sort of fight for what we believed in. I think, I think part of what we've all learned along the way, and perhaps to Bonnie's credit, I think was definitely more instinctual for her, is how do we bring up the people around us?
Yeah.
Right? And at some point there's a shift from how do you sort of fight for yourself as a woman to how do you fight for inclusion all up. And I think that was a big shift, I think, both as we matured in our careers and matured as leaders, but also, recognizing that the things we were, I don't want to say enduring, but the things we were experiencing and fighting for were things that were just wrong. They weren't just an individual circumstance. They were just sort of systemically wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's great to hear that, because I think a lot of times people can just look really insular at their own experiences. Like, how is this affecting me today? How do I have to kind of have my back up? And, I think that's the kind of neat part of this conversation, especially around like women in the workplaces. We do have each other as support networks that are meaningful for women by women, but then there's also male support networks as well. And how has that been kind of over the years, the idea of male allies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel so fortunate in that through my career at Microsoft and in games, I've had amazing managers.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've had mostly female managers.
Oh, really?
And and it, in talking about me, my own reflection on my career, there's so much where I thought like, oh, I was able to overcome this or overcome that, and I very naively and selfishly sort of forgot, like, would I have even had that first job? Would I have gotten that first job were it not for the fact that my hiring manager was female?
Yeah.
Like, that very first step may never have really happened for me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I worked for Ken Lobb for a long time, who is an amazing manager and an amazing supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
I haven't.
He is.
Oh, he's a teddy bear.
In terms of supporting me and the things that, I felt were sort of important, and being an advocate for me and helping amplify my perspective, he was always amazing that way. So I feel so fortunate in always feeling like I've had good support, which made all of the difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you, in your career, did you have a formal mentor? Like, did you go down that road of mentorship? It's a question we get asked.
Yeah, mentorship's so hard.
It is.
Do not run down that poor sheep with the warthog.
I'm sorry, I'm just so
I
tempted.
I forbid the killing of the sheep.
Kate says do
Really?
it.
I'm so.
But you can chase it.
I'll try.
Oh my gosh.
all day long.
It
It is.
As soon as I
It's like
saw
the most agile sheep
Yeah,
ever.
exactly.
As soon as I saw the sheep, that's where my mind went. I don't know what that means. But
Why do you
yeah,
hate sheep?
I don't know. I see things moving in video games, and
Like
I
if
wanna
it
kill
was like a hyena who had just eaten a baby lion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm driving away, so I cannot be tempted.
Right.
By this gymnastics sheep.
Anyways,
So now I'm trying to remember what we were talking about.
Oh, mentors.
Yes, a mentor.
No.
So tricky, right?
Yes.
Because the concept is amazing, and the hardest part about mentorship, frankly, is being really clear on what you need out of a mentor,
Yep.
and coming prepared for your mentor. I've had a few mentors in the past, and I will say most of my informal, sort of unofficial mentors
Yes.
have been more meaningful for me than my formal mentors, mostly because I think at the time when I had formal mentorship, we didn't really understand what it
Right.
should do,
Right.
And so, in sort of old school classic Microsoft style, it's like,
Yeah.
let's go find a female leader
Yeah.
so you can talk about your career,
Yeah.
not talk about what it means to be a woman in the workplace,
Right.
and sort of the challenges of that. Today it's very different,
Yeah.
but I would say 10, 15 years ago it was very much about how do we make you feel good that your career aspirations are being
Like
supported.
listen to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And ultimately those aren't the things that are
Yeah.
most important, I think, today.
Yeah.
to get, which isn't to say the career advice and the experience and background
Totally.
isn't valuable, but
Totally.
it's a tough thing to maintain and have be a sort of long-term relationship. That said, they're so valuable, and so I think as people are starting to shift, even here at the company, you know, what a mentorship should mean.
Yeah.
And to me, a lot of it is, how does it cause you to, how is it a great sounding board for you to reflect yourself?
Yeah.
How is it a support system?
Yeah.
How is it,
Yeah, it's a great way to think about, like, how is it serving you and what are you getting out of it versus thinking just outside the formal lines of I'm going to meet with somebody who is here in career and take
and
their...
how do you be really deliberate?
Right.
Because you should add value to the mentor as well.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
that's a
Those
good...
conversations should
that's a
add
big
value.
sure.
Yeah.
Because it should be about the two-way.
Yeah, absolutely.
There
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that we had a question in the chat asking about what are the things that you noticed like changed the most from when you started in the gaming industry up to now. Like if you had to name some of the things that you think.
Yeah, there's
are
some.
most different.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's at a really
Killing
Trying.
it. Right
I'm
it.
trying. I just did it on my own.
Great.
you know, the scope and scale of game development
Yeah.
has both gotten so much bigger and so much smaller,
Yeah.
which I love, right? Because it used to be there was just AAA game development,
Right.
and today there's AAA game development and it's exponentially bigger.
Yes.
At the same time, there's all of this indie development, which is happening driven by small teams and passion and
Single people.
and there's an audience out there that is happy to play a 2-hour game experience as much as a 40-hour game experience, that is happy to see a game that has a social message. Like the audience is so much more diverse in what they feel makes up a game and what they're willing to pay for.
Yeah, that's true.
Or not pay for. That I think games are so much more diverse. The teams are getting so much much more diverse, and sort of what it takes to make a game with the democratization of tools and engines. It's just so much more accessible.
Yeah.
So on a really practical level, like that's been a big shift.
Yep.
I think also there's so much more focus on craft
Yep.
in making games, whether it's big or small. And again, that gets back to audience.
Yep.
Right. The
right.
audiences are huge, and they expect
What am I doing?
a quality
help.
experience.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean the highest end graphics, which used to be.
Yeah.
Right? All we focused on, how does it look as real and as good as possible. Now you see so much stylization and different, right, which speaks to the story and the vision and the intent of the game in a different way. And then building games, there's no question we have so much more work to do, but there's no question there's so much more diversity
Yeah.
in game development than there used to be.
Yeah.
And you know, it used to be you would walk in and you know, I worked on the publishing side for a long time, worked with a lot of game teams across the world, and you would walk into a room and you would be one of
The only woman in the room.
only woman, one of two, and
Yeah.
three, and you were always treated like an anomaly,
Yeah.
right? Oh, do you play? Right?
Yeah.
And now that's just
It's kind of not even a
ridiculous.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also true that, at least from what we know and have heard, that you guys at 343 have like an amazing, diverse team, way more than you still to this day we find in other studios and other companies, right?
Yeah. Well, I think diversity begets diversity, and it's
That's
the whole
right.
idea of the cultures you build. Like you want to build teams that reflect, you know, your studio values and that inclusivity, and all those people, you know, some will go elsewhere and they'll start their own teams, and hopefully that just sort of continues to pay forward. And you know, there's no question that you know, you're able to attract like talent.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels like, you know, if there is a person of color or a woman or you know, any diverse attribute as a leader, it feels like a safer environment. It feels like, oh, I can relate to that person. They will understand, sort of the things that I'm going through.
Yeah, totally. So that kind of brings up the idea of like the authentic self, and that's kind of been a conversation for a few years about people trying to be who they are at work, and I think it's a fantastic conversation. Do you feel like that's changed a lot over time as well?
Yeah.
And I think, we were kind of, joking about Kiki being like a bit of our girl crush because like you kind of lived this awesome life from racing maven to, again, we were talking about your trip to Japan and being a Japanophile. So you yourself are unique in that you bring these different types of elements of your personality.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about if that's important?
Yeah,
or?
it's important, and it was definitely a journey for me, because I know that early in my career, I felt like I had to have this very sort of strong front up all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like showing vulnerability, or
Right.
and part of putting up a little bit of that wall meant I also sort of shielded my personal life from my work life. And as I sort of progressed in my career, and I say probably the most profound piece of it was in the development of Halo 4 and building up that team. And when you're building a team and when you have people relocating from all over the world to join this effort, you feel such a burden to make sure that they can be successful,
Right.
and that this huge upheaval in their lives is worth it, and you feel I shouldn't say burden, because it's really a responsibility to help nurture this team. And part of that means needing to be vulnerable, and part of that means if you're going to be this big family, you have to let people into who you are personally, and be authentic with them. And so that was a big shift for me, to sort of let down those walls of who my work persona needed to be versus just who I was.
Yeah.
And was also a big turning point for me in terms of who I wanted to be as a leader.
Yeah.
And acknowledging, which is such a wonderful thing to be happening in the industry now, that you can be your own kind of leader, and that's fine. There isn't sort of this cookie cutter, which, it's so funny looking at some of these books.
Oh, I know.
Leadership books, right, from like the 90s and aughts, and it's like, wow.
Allow this team to
And I reflect back on all the work it took for me to sort of understand my place in that mold for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's really liberating to be able to step out of that.
Yeah, that's a really great way to describe it. It's interesting because seeing younger people come up in the industry, it's almost a sense of jealousy in a little bit that they get to enter so fresh, which is, again, jealousy is not the right emotion to have, but at the same time, it's really cool that people can come and bring themselves. Whereas, like you said, a lot of times the discourse has been, we don't need to change, the culture doesn't need to change, you need to fit the culture. So to see that kind of change happening, and to also just be somebody that can kind of bring safety to people, to say, no, you can be who you are, and you don't have to talk the most in this meeting at this level of volume, right?
And I remember, being told...
I'm sorry, I saw like
the
three of them.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
They're taunting you.
They really not let me run over.
Never say never.
There's no animal
Don't you remember Seinfeld and the pigeon? Like, it could happen.
Yeah.
Oh, you tried, Kate. I see you.
But I remember being sort of coached that I needed to figure out how, because I had peers who were loud and outspoken, and when we were in a room together, my style is a little bit different about how I needed to be sort of louder.
Yeah.
Right? And that was really hard for me, because I didn't know how to do that in a way that felt real for me.
Yeah. It's such a change, and I think we talk a lot about how the culture is changing here at Microsoft as well, and it's this kind of move towards like an empathetic culture, understanding of people and the strengths and the superpowers that they bring, and it is a great time. So I think before we move on to snaps, we'll ask one last question, which we get, unless there's a chat question.
Well, there's a chat question.
Okay.
If you have another one,
I'm gonna save the sheep.
Okay. And yeah.
Okay,
Do you want to take a question from the chat, or
let's take a question from the chat. I'd rather ask what questions people have.
So Mandy asks if have we ever experienced imposter syndrome? Especially interested in Kiki's answer as a high-profile woman in the game industry.
Yeah.
Which is a very recurrent theme in our conversations and everything that we do here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and choose a card. There's so many to choose from. So there's no question. I to this day feel imposter syndrome all the time. Like it's crazy, and it's it can be when I'm preparing to do a talk. I'm like, why did they even invite me here? Like, what am I going to say that these people possibly want to hear? It can be when I'm doing a lot of work in LA right now for the TV show. I can walk into that room and I'm like, even though I've like made games forever and told stories, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what could I possibly like? It's insidious. Like, it's really tough, and I kind of. Speaking about being authentic self, I do have sort of my own personas I need to be able to step into.
Yep.
When I walk into a room like that or or something that lets me kind of get over that hump, because once I'm in the room or doing that, like, I'm just enjoying that experience. Yep. And so then it's very different. But it's tough. I don't know what the answer is, but I think,
I think it's refreshing to hear, right? Like that even, it's kind of like the nervousness of public speaking. It kind of never goes away, right? Like you always are going to have something in the pit of your stomach a doubt or a question, no matter whether your first day on the job or you've been there for 20 years. And that can just be a part of life, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you mentioned like these potentially personas that you've built in terms of, hey, well, I know who I am here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't betray who you are or your values.
Yeah.
But
it kind of lets me get out of that space, because part of it's just being able to step out of that moment that's happening in yourself. And I can look back and acknowledge that it's not valid, but it's really hard when you're feeling it to be able to
absolutely
to get away from it. So that's sort of how I deal with it. Right or wrong, but I it's hard to say sort of where it comes from.
Totally.
And it just can strike, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always have kind of two things about imposter syndrome. One is if you don't have it, you're not working in a job hard enough or challenging enough. Like if you're not white knuckling the wheel on the way home being like, I should be fired. That's actually a good thing.
I agree.
Because you're being challenged.
Yeah, I have that feeling a lot when I'm like going home and I'm like, I do not deserve the salary.
That's right.
I should not be here.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I like to say is sometimes it's a great thing if you can find a safe place where you can say to people, I have no idea, but I will figure it out, or I will work on it. And I think especially in corporate cultures, the I don't know has been such a bad word for a long time, but we're starting to get over that. A lot of, especially here at Microsoft, our jobs every day is different. We don't do the same thing. We work with so many different projects and challenges that it's impossible for anybody to be an absolute expert at their job and B, just have that level of perfection. Like I think it's okay to have a bit of imposter syndrome sometimes, as long as it fuels you in a healthy way.
And you're bringing your A game, right? You're bringing the expertise you have. You're taking on the big challenge.
Absolutely.
You're willing to learn and try and work hard, and I think you have to be happy with that.
I think it really helps, like, to be your best self and trying hard every day you come into work to have that. So looking at imposter syndrome as like an opportunity to actually like be your best self every day and improve, and looking back and like 2018, now that we're in the new year, and see like how many uncomfortable situations I was in, and hey, I'm still here.
And push through, and you survived. Yeah.
So it also feels very good to do that assessment and recognize that we do feel, and we do have those feelings, but we all survive and make the best out of it. So, yeah.
All right, so we're going to move into snaps. We're going to keep the good vibes flowing. So snaps are actually, is it Bonnie is our first snap, or is that a one-up? I don't know. I'm looking for somebody from production to tell me.
I needed that title to come in about 3 seconds earlier.
Okay, so we are going to talk about Bonnie. This happened a little bit just before the break. So Bonnie, CVP here, head of 343.
Yep, my boss.
Longtime friend and boss, absolutely. Sponsor of Women in Gaming, was inducted into, I'm not even going to remember the full, it's like Academy
of Interactive Arts and Sciences.
Yes, awesome.
Yes.
Somebody got it.
Yes.
Yeah, and so for two reasons. Obviously, her long-standing history with game design and game making and the work that they've been doing. You guys have been doing at 343.
Founding and building 343.
Yeah, and just the Halo universes and the amazing great work over there. But also from her diversity work and the, founding of kind of women in gaming, her work in that space, her work as like just a mentor and general leader, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things. One is having Bonnie recognized, period, is amazing. And I will say that, her genuine passion around the space of diversity and inclusion is real, right?
Yep.
Like, and it has been for a long time, right? It has been before it was sort of embraced by corporate culture.
That's right.
And so, the genuine joy she takes in moving that ball forward is a huge testament. And the AIAS for recognizing that is a tremendous message, right, for the industry. And, it's easy to focus on the diversity piece, but to your point, she has an extraordinary history in game development, has worked with some of the top game development teams and companies in the world, and on some of the biggest IPs in the world. So
hugely deserved. So
snaps.
Love it. Yep. So we're gonna do snaps to Bonnie for sure.
Am I supposed to be snapping?
Yeah.
We're supposed to.
We try and snap here. So then we did want to talk about Amy Hennig as well. We'll just roll this in.
Yeah. So also AIAS, Amy Hennig got the Lifetime Achievement Award, which I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted series and a huge fan of Amy's personally. I lobbied for this, I should get a Lifetime Achievement Award for lobbying for Lifetime Achievement.
Snaps to Kiki.
But seriously, what the kind of leadership role creatively she's played, what she did with that franchise, what she will do in the future. Again, really inspiring to have her be recognized that way.
Yeah, two industry leaders, titans of industry, I would consider in the games world. So just amazing recognition for them. Yeah.
All right, it's so wonderful to have. I was just about to add that it's wonderful to have these kinds of role models for people to look up to and see how they paved their way into the gaming industry and everything they achieved and did, and it's super inspiring.
I agree.
So, snaps now.
Snaps now. Thank everybody in the studio.
Yes.
It sounds like a beat poetry in here. Okay, so then we're going to move into one-ups and game overs, and so we're going to start with game overs, which is a little bit of our bad vibes, and we'll bring it back home to good vibes. So we want to talk a little bit about the Overwatch Ellie story that hit over the holidays. We're just kind of catching up here in the studio about it, and we're not going to rehash the whole story. I think there's a Washington Post article that people should go check out. There's probably a lot of reading people should do about this.
Yeah, it's super complex.
Because there's a lot.
That's right.
It's really complex, and they haven't figured everything out.
Yes.
But because of how it all unrolled,
Yeah.
Like how the story sort of started to unfold and continues to unfold, I think it's intriguing because so many different emotions came out along the way and caused so many great conversations.
Yeah.
Unresolved because we still don't know.
That's right.
But sort of each stage of information rolled out, I think the thing that struck me the most was early on when there was the idea of this female professional player leaving because of harassment.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God, every time we think things are really getting
I
better,
know.
right?
Something
You
happens.
see all
Get knocked
these
down.
people resurface with these comments, and and then she's leaving, and then of course it got so much more complex than that.
That's right.
But I think at a really surface level, there's still so much work to do with those audiences and those conversations that happen online, and how people perceive female players, and that's sort of the thing that I take away with how to we got to stay on it.
We really
And
do.
Yeah, and within the gaming industry, the esports industry in its own has its own, their own particular challenges.
Yeah, that's
I feel
right.
like, because
That's right.
although there's a lot of conversations, and there have been in the past years within the gaming industry and the developers and the studios to push for more diversity and push for a better culture within the studios, that same conversation within the esports industry hasn't been so strong, and
Yeah.
it's way more new to
Yeah.
that particular space.
Yeah.
So I think it also comes with its own particular set of challenges, which
That's
we
right.
could see in some form of
Yeah.
harassment when, in the beginning of this story.
Yeah, and as you get more into sort of the story, there's so much more
Yes.
dysfunction and things that go sort of heinously wrong that speak to some of the challenges, I think, with esports in particular,
Yes.
and how they need to think about their players and how the teams
For sure.
manage these things. And so that's a whole different, deeper
Yeah.
story to tell. But
I mean, I'm hopeful that there will be some impact from this. I mean,
Yes.
it's a really negative story, obviously, and there's lots of these that happen all the time.
Yep.
But sometimes we're just faced with, gamer gets harassed, they quit, the end. The story ends there,
Yep.
right? And so perhaps in this time there's something to be said for, okay, well, what is going to be resolved out of it? Like, what's the dialogue
Yeah.
we can have that moves this forward
Yeah.
about why this happened, or the feelings involved, or the justifications
Yeah.
of the quote unquote social experiment, things like that, which is just
Yeah.
silly in itself, only in gaming.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. But again, I think we talked about surfacing hard conversations, and if anything,
There's
maybe
about 4 or 5 really
That's
hard
right.
conversations that surface from
yes.
this.
people
whole,
better buckle
right?
up for some
Yeah.
awkward conversations, because
Yeah.
but I think we're at that point in our industry where we can't just acknowledge that this stuff happens anymore.
Yeah.
There's real consequences.
right.
Yeah, and we have to
Yeah.
come up with solutions
Yeah.
and propose solutions and try new things
Yeah.
and try to do, just try and make it better
Yeah.
for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 minutes? 4 minutes? 3 minutes. All right. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up pretty quickly. We'll move to our one-ups. Sorry, we just sort of glossed over that, but we'll hopefully we'll have maybe when we come back in 2 weeks, there'll be some new news and we can talk
Right.
about it. So one-ups, we wanted to end on a high note. Again, kind of going back to some of the December news, was the Game Awards and Sonic Fox and the acceptance speech. We just love that. We
Yeah.
watched it again before
It's
the
fantastic.
camera rolled. And I don't know if you guys have it up or queued, but if not, you should definitely check it online on YouTube. Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up. So that's
Speaking
good.
of esports, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was
Speaking
a
of esports,
fantastic.
Yeah, he won the
moment.
Gamer of the Year award.
Yeah.
And his acceptance speech was just as you were saying, Nicole, it was just so inspiring and
Yeah.
so different and out there and so validating for
Yeah.
the people that belong in all of these groups that he also belongs to.
Yeah.
And he, just his honesty was
Yeah.
Ah, it makes you feel hopeful right after the last
Yes.
conversation.
know.
This definitely makes you feel hopeful for
It does.
what that culture can be.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to unpack in his speech around, obviously being gay and black and a furry and all
Yeah.
those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, he plays because of the bonds
and
gaming.
he's good.
Yeah, and he's
he
good.
won,
Yes.
he won the award because he's the best.
Absolutely.
And
So
so
there's-
that's really, really important.
That's great competitive acknowledgement, but he's not in it here for the money. He's here to it's what gaming gives him, and I think that's kind of why we're all here. That's why we're on this couch, why we're talking about women in gaming. It always kind of boils down to what gaming fulfills in our lives and the friendships we make and the meaning it gives. And so his speech, again, just a huge platform, huge stage to be able to do
and
that.
shout out to Jeff Keighley, right?
Oh,
yes. Game Awards have been a sort of personal passion for him. He's made that happen on his own, and I think this year was really a threshold year.
I agree. It's grown.
What it could be.
Huge, and the production value and everything.
He did amazing.
And highlighting these kinds of players and recognizing all parts of the industry is great.
It's a new platform to highlight all the amazing work that everyone does.
It's a labor of love for us. It was a labor of love for him. That is just sort of what the industry is about. So.
Exactly. All right. Well, on that high note, we are going to wrap her up. Thank you to Kiki for spending the hour with us.
Thank you for having me.
We had so much fun. Thank you, Kat, for
Nicole.
Showing off your driving skills. And
I tried and trying to kill
skills. For those that want to follow us, we are on Twitter and Instagram at Women in Gaming, and you will see us back here in 2 weeks. Maybe not us, but two people back on January 23rd. So make sure to follow us and subscribe to the Mixer channel for more information. And we will see you again next Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yay. Bye.
You can't go wrong if you're streaming or watching on Mixer. That guy gets it. Yeah! Yes! She does too. Yeah! Want to do this? Want to stream that? Want to cheer for this guy? Well, he does this. Yeah, you can do that. Stream, watch, and connect with a growing community of streamers streaming your favorite games. Only on Mixer.